You know, they say the Flash is the fastest man alive, but man, did he limp a lot on his way to getting his own movie on the big screen. We finally got the Flash movie in 2023, but the road to get there, it wasn't an elegant sprint, it was a near decade-long hurdle race where the hurdles were on fire and the track was made of glass. And by the time the broken and hobbled body of the Flash got across that finish line, it had become one of the final nails in the coffin of what was the DCEU. So why are we talking about The Flash? Well, just the other day, news came out that celebrated directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who just gave us the amazing Project Hail Mary, were talking about possibly coming back to actually make the Flash movie that they were going to do with DC years ago. So I thought this would be the perfect time to look back at the absolute circus that was the development hell of the Flash movie. So here's our roadmap. Today we're going to talk about how there was controversy right from the day that they announced the movie. Then we're going to move on to talk about the seemingly never-ending director carousel. After that, we're going to talk about all the legal troubles that nearly sunk the film before it even came out because of their star. After that, we'll look at the context of just how long it took to get the movie to theaters. We'll talk about how the movie became an absolute financial disaster. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about the lessons that James Gunn can learn from The Flash's failure. Now, you got to understand that the controversy surrounding the Flash movie literally started on the day they announced it. Let's go back to October of 2014. On October 7th, the Flash TV series premiered on the CW starring Grant Gustin. It was a massive success, the second most watched pilot in the network's history. Fans were instantly on board with this version of Barry Allen. People loved it. But then, just 8 days later, on October 15th, the day after the second episode of The Flash aired, Warner Brothers held a massive investors call, and they announced a full slate of DC movies through 2020. And right there in the middle of it was the Flash movie scheduled for 2018. And they didn't just announce the movie, they announced that Ezra Miller had already been cast. Guys, just imagine the optics of that. Imagine you're Grant Gustin. You just had the biggest week of your life, and the studio basically says, hey, great job, kid, but the real Flash is this guy over here. It created an unnecessary and immediate divide in the fan base. From day one, there were negative feelings being generated about the movie. And listen, nobody was saying that they shouldn't have done a Flash movie with Ezra Miller, but the timing of the announcement was just incredibly tone-deaf. Arrow star Stephen Amell put it best when he appeared on my Arrow After Show with me, and he said the following.
But what, as the performer in it, what is your take on all that?
Could have been handled better. I think that someone like Grant Gustin, who has just launched an iconic character like the Flash to record-breaking numbers, he should have been given a wider berth than 2 episodes before another actor was announced to play his character. So I thought that it was shitty that all of this stuff got announced the morning that the ratings, the spectacular ratings of the second episode of The Flash came in.
Okay, now that the movie was officially announced and already living with controversy, things got immediately worse as the search for a director became a game of musical chairs where the music just never stopped. Lord and Miller in 2015, the duo behind the Lego movie, were just the first big names. They wrote a treatment that was reportedly high energy and fun, and the word was that they were looking at maybe directing it as well, but then creative differences made Warner Brothers decide to look elsewhere. That then led us to Seth Grahame-Smith. Warner Brothers then hired the author of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter for his directorial debut. He even wrote a script that Warner Brothers reportedly liked, but then Batman vs. Superman happened. The mixed reception to Batman vs. Superman made Warner Brothers nervous about untested talent. They got cold feet about giving a massive blockbuster to a first-time director and started having creative differences. So by April of 2016, he was out. Then after that, we had Rick Famuyiwa. This was the version that fans still mourn. Rick, known for doing that incredible movie Dope, brought a topical and edgy vision to The Flash. He cast Kiersey Clemons as Iris West and intended for Ray Fisher's Cyborg to be a central co-star. But Rick's vision was too edgy for a studio that was now desperately trying to pivot to a lighter tone to copy the MCU success. Rick walked away with roughly 3 or 4 months before filming was supposed to start. Then in 2018, the year the movie was originally announced to come out, it looked like they finally found the right fit. John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein. They had just come off writing Spider-Man: Homecoming and directing Game Night, and would go on later to direct the terrific Dungeons & Dragons movie. Anyway, Their pitch was brilliant. A grounded, ground level superhero story with Back to the Future kind of vibes. But you know what they say, this is DC and we can't have nice things, because then came the clash. Reports surfaced that the star of the film, Ezra Miller, hated the direction the movie was going. Ezra wanted a much darker and metaphysical take on the Speed Force. It got so bad that Ezra Miller actually teamed up with comic writer Grant Morris to write a competing script while the directors were still working. He went over their heads to the studio to try to get their script trashed and his script implemented. Now, just for a second, think about the chaos and stress that creates. Your lead actor is over there in the corner writing their own version of the movie to try to push you out. Warner Brothers amazingly allowed it. They let Ezra and Grant submit their script. Now, ultimately, the studio passed on Ezra's version, but Daly and Goldstein realized the power dynamic was broken. They weren't going to win any battle against the studio star, so they rightfully walked away. This was the moment the circus truly took over. So eventually, Andy Muschietti and writer Christina Hodson came on board to finally make the film, which started production in 2021. 3 years after the film was supposed to already be in theaters. So you'd hope that was the end of the Flash drama, right? Nope. It was about to get a whole lot worse, because as the movie finished production, the headline shifted from creative differences with directors to police reports with your star. Ezra Miller looked at Warner Brothers and said, "You think we've had drama getting this film made? Hold my 15 beers." April of 2020, a video surfaces of Ezra actually choking a woman at a bar in Iceland. March and April of 2022, 2 separate arrests in Hawaii for disorderly conduct at a karaoke bar and a second-degree assault charge involving a thrown chair. June 2022, protective orders are filed regarding allegations of grooming and harassment involving minors. August of 2022, a felony burglary charge in Vermont involving stolen alcohol from a neighbor's home, and then a few more minor incidents. This was a PR catastrophe. It's why Ezra was almost entirely absent from the press tour. It's hard to sell a fun, family-friendly superhero movie when your lead performer is facing a mountain of legal investigations. And fairly or unfairly, it turned a lot of people off the film long before it even hit the screen. And just to put into context about how long this whole fiasco took, remember that they announced the Ezra Miller Flash movie just as season 1 of the Flash TV series was getting started. Well, the movie finally came out about 3 weeks after the season 9 series finale of the TV show. That's right. Despite being announced right when the show launched season 1, the Flash TV show got through its entire 9-season run before the Flash movie even got to theaters. And when the movie finally did hit theaters in June of 2023, 5 years late by that time, it didn't just trip, it fell on its face. With a massive reported $200 to $220 million budget and an estimated $150 million in marketing, the global box office total of just $271 million was an absolute disaster. When it was all said and done, the movie was estimated to have lost the studio around $200 million. However you want to cut it, this was a production plagued by controversy, poor decision-making, unforced errors. It was a disaster. Now, all that being said, here's my personal observations. I actually ended up liking the film. Despite the 10 years of development hell, the emotional core of Barry trying to save his mom, it actually really landed for me, and I love seeing Michael Keaton back as Batman. Now, was it one of the greatest comic book superhero films of all time? Absolutely not. But I thought it was a lot of fun despite the chaos surrounding it. So where do we go from here? James Gunn is now running the show, and the biggest lesson he's likely to take away from the mess that came before is this: stability. James Gunn's DCU is about script first, locking the vision before the cameras start to roll so you don't have director carousels or actor-led coups. I'm looking forward to seeing how he approaches the new Flash, maybe with a fresh start, a younger Barry, maybe even a Wally West focus. Heck, maybe Lord and Miller will ultimately come back and do the Flash film they never had a chance to do in the first place. The bottom line is the Flash is just too good of a character to be defined by one troubled production. Hopefully, the next time he runs, it's a much smoother sprint. But what do you guys think? Jump down into the comments section below and let me know. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.